Hello, my lovelies, and welcome to yet another wonderful stream with yours truly. Today, we are going to learn how to work on that text that we babbled about last time you visited me. I also did, if memory serves, I also did say that I would be teaching you how to make a needle minder. So I had a question the other day about what this little puppy was. So since that's going to take all of, a few minutes, let's start off with that. Something relatively easy. So, a needle minder, I can't remember if I explained it last time, is something that you're going to use, or you don't have to necessarily. There's no, again, right, wrong way to do that. You're going to use that to keep track of your needle. That way you don't have to, stab it into your work constantly, because that's always fun. So what this little guy is, I don't know, that's what that happens. My hoop doesn't want to stay a hoop. On one side, you have a rare earth magnet, and on the other one you have another rare earth magnet. Close together, they snap. Because that's how magnets work. It's not miracles, children, it's science. So, you have your piece in a hoop. Pretend it's in a hoop, because my hoop does not want to be a one, apparently. Put your front on the one side, magnet on the back, and that way it's not going to go anywhere. So if you're waiting, you get up to go to the bathroom, it's a snack time, whatever you decide to do, just toss on your needle, and you're good to go. But remember, for traveling purposes, you still want to keep your needles somewhere actually safe, like in a sewing kit or your own little box of tricks. It all depends on what you want to do. If it's close to Halloween and you have a good pain threshold, you can also store it in your finger and really freak people out. That is not me saying go stab yourself. That is not what we want to do. That is never a good thing to do. This is a very new hoop for me, so you have to excuse me. It does not want to go in its home, if we want to quote Happy Gilmore. It wants to be a butt. So, there's a very, very good chance this puppy's going to come apart on us at some point later. But if that happens, we will deal with it. You know why? Because that's what we do. We deal with things and we move on. KBO. So, if you wanted to make one of these puppies for yourself, again, why not? It's fun to make. It's easy to make. It takes seconds, minutes, whatever you would like to do. But, now I need to find where I put all my stuff, because my desk is a mess. You can't see that, but trust me, it's a bit of a mess. So, first thing you're going to need is your handy dandy, I personally use E6000. This stuff, you could glue things down and they're not going to move ever again, no matter what they want to do, because it's very strong stuff. You're also going to want rare earth magnets. Don't put this near anything that you actually want to keep the memory inside of, because that is how you completely mess up your computer. Of course, if you decide you want to do that on purpose to somebody because they're being a jerk on the train, that is all you, my dear. Go for it. But you also want to find something that you actually want as your topper. It could be a button. It could be a pin. For my Disney peeps, you can always use any of that trade fodder pins you have lying around. Go for it. Let me go grab one. I made one of those the other day. Hold on a quick second for me. Sorry about that. I usually am a bit more prepared than I am today, apparently. So, this is another one that I made the other day for a spouse. It's a actual little Disney pin. And again, same thing, same setup. Now, if you're going to use a pin, which again, you can totally do that, go for it, have fun with it, I'll show you how to make that. I have this puppy, which anyone who knows me knows that I'm a giant Nightmare Before Christmas fan, as is my 3-year-old. Oh, she's going to be 4 this August. Holy Jesus. Anyway, we're going to take this little guy and show you how to make him into a needle minder. Now, anyone who's worth their salt knows you have backings, sharp pokey bits. That is not going to be good to stab through your Aida cloth. That's going to mess up your cloth and mess up your day. Much sadness. A pair of pliers, anything that has this handy dandy sharp bit here to cut. So what we're going to use. Please, please be careful so that you don't, snip up a finger. Those are important, and apparently they don't grow back. Who knew, right? So the back's going to be a little rough. You can use sandpaper, sanding block, Dremel tool, whatever you want to do, just to get, just to make it a little less rough. If you can, there's, I personally prefer to use a sander, but I do not have one with me. All I have is my sanding block. But a metal file, your dad's your mom, your dad's, your personal sander in the garage could work. Anything. So, once you got that done, you're going to take some of your E6000, and once again, this stuff is stupid strong. You do not need a lot of it. It's also very toxic's not the right word. I would not put this up your nose. It has a very strong smell, so you don't want to keep it around too long when you're done. And a little bit goes a long way. So put a little dollop there on the back of your pin or your button or bottle cap if you're going to go fall out on me. Whatever you want to do, go for it. It's your needle minder. It's going to hold your needles. I'll put our glue away before I accidentally glue myself to a desk. Take one of your rare earth magnets, and these guys I got from Amazon, a 100 pack of rare earth magnets for about 10 bucks. Showed up next day. I'm going to take this puppy, and you're going to stick that where you put your E6000. And then you're going to put it aside, and you're going to let it sit there to dry for 24 hours. If you have big guys like this, you can always put 2 magnets on it so that you have more coverage. That is your call. When it dries, you can use another magnet for the back of it, or you could use a washer, which are pennies, I say, at any Lowe's or Home Depot, which could also work if you don't have a lot of rare earth magnets. And again, it's your needle minder. You do you, my dear. So, know how to make that. Good on you. So you get technically 2 things you're going to learn today. And now we are going to, I'm going to show you first how I mathed out what we're doing. So, this is our pattern for what we're going to be working on over the next few sessions. A close girlfriend of mine, she wanted this statement cross-stitched, and I'm, okay, cool. Sounds like a fun challenge. Wanted mushrooms in it, all that fun stuff. So that's what we're going to do. But you'll notice that this is rather large. It could be intimidating is the right word, give or take. But I can actually tell you that this isn't as big as your end result's going to be. Why, you ask? Happy to explain that to you. So, remember how we're using Aida cloth? And I keep mentioning that mine is 14 count, or what I'm currently using is 14 count. There's also 18 count. This one I got at Walmart. No, sorry. This 18 count I got at Hobby Lobby. 14 I got at Walmart. Walmart also has 24 count. And if you're curious, what the heck, Mama D, what are you talking about? Tossing around words like count and numbers, and I don't see anything special. 14 count, 18 count, 24 count, that's letting you know how many of those itty bitty little dots on your Aida cloth you can fit in an inch. How many stitches you can put in 1 inch of material. So, knowing that, and going forward, we're going to do a little math. And unfortunately, if you're like me and aren't a big fan of math, you might have to go find somebody who is good at math, which is exactly what I did, to double check what I'm about to babble off is actually at least somewhat legit. So, we are going to show you how to do that. So, this graph paper is 8 by 8. Each of these little 8 by 8 spaces is also an inch. So what I did was I mathed across from this side to this side how many boxes were used up when I was designing this pattern. And across, up and down, side to side, it's about 14.5 inches to 15 inches. That's not too terrible. But taking those inches and multiplying them by 8, because remember, each inch is 8, got us about 116 stitches by 120 stitches. Taking that number, because they're stitches, we're going to divide it by 14 so that we know how that translates into our Aida cloth. I'm so sorry if I've lost you already. Saying it out loud is already confusing me. But that's why I had to write it down. See my little scrap paper down here. So, translating the 116 by 120, dividing both numbers by 14, gets us to about 8.28 inches by 8.57 inches. I rounded up because you're going to want to have a little bit of excess so it fills your hoop and you have some going around your hoop. You also want to allot for mistakes if you're like off one way or the other, like a stitch or two. It's not usually the best practice to work right up to the edge of your material. You always want to leave a little wiggle room because we're human, we make mistakes, and that's just how it works. But, so, what I did was exactly that. I cut out a 10 by 10 piece of Aida cloth. And you're probably also wondering, why is there a dot in the middle of your material? That's kind of unfortunate. Well, it would be if it was unintentional, but I actually did that on purpose. Some people, when they're doing bigger pieces like this, they can do a very loose stitch the entire way and find your midpoint. Or you do what I did, fold it in half and crease it like an envelope, fold it the other way, crease it, and you have, this is our middle spot of our Aida cloth. Just like this is with our middle, give or take a row or two, which again is why we have extra space and why we cut it out the way we did. We can work on that. Now this is where things will become a little tricky, because what we're going to do is we're going to start our text. I start as close as I can to the center and work my way out. That way I can math out where things go around it. Because knowing me and knowing my history with doing these kind of crafts, if I do this and I try and math up and go across and do that and come down and yada yada yada, or God forbid do this part first, I'm going to mess something up and then I'm going to be very, very upset at myself. Because this is going to take a while. And I don't want to mess it up. It took me a week or two plus to make the pattern itself, and I would like to not mess that up. So we're going to set up our needle like we did previously, like we have done every single time you've joined me so far. We're going to try to not get our floss all tangled, because that is not going to be a good day for anybody. Now, the fun thing about text and cross stitch is that there are various people out there that are awesome and have free patterns for text and lettering. The woman that commissioned me actually sent me text that she wanted me to use. So, that's what I did. And this is exactly how we did our mushroom lining. Just one stitch at a time. Bottom left, top right, bottom right, top left. However you want to do it. Now this piece, it being a bit bigger, when it's finished, depending on how she wants to set it up, it'll be displayed in a hoop that'll fit the pattern, or it could also be custom framed. So I'm not too worried about the back, honestly. Though if she does want it to be in a decorative frame, in a decorative hoop, you can always use felt or something of the like to put across the back so it's safe. That way your ends don't become frayed, words are fun, in case she moves, or that way it doesn't snag on stuff. So it's always good to, keep those duckies in a row. So we're going to start right about here-ish. And like I said, we're going to unfortunately have to guesstimate a little bit, but we're going to start on the letter T for that. Right around the center, and go from there. I have matched this out so that I have about 3 spaces between each row of text, and about 4 spaces between each word. That way it's easy to read, because that's going to translate differently from the pattern onto a cross stitch. Remember all that math we did? Which, don't know about you guys, wasn't something I did willingly. Well, kind of a lie. I had to do it so I wouldn't mess myself up. You're going to want to double check all that jazz. But my train of thought just completely derailed. Did you see that? It was hazardous. There was people screaming, and there was fire, and just, wow, completely derailed there. Math. Inches, stitches, translations. Anyway, if I figure out where I was going with that, I will let you know. But currently, I got nothing. I think I was going along with that's how certain stitches translate, or something similar to that. Because our stitches on our Aida cloth are a bit smaller than our stitches are, well, stitches, I say, but it's actually a piece of graph paper. And like I've said previously, if you can draw on graph paper, you can definitely do a cross stitch, because it is the exact same thing, just with a different media. And erasing takes a little bit more effort. So, we've done our little tail right here. We're going to go down here and do our... We're going to try and go and do the entire letter in one direction and then work our way back. Depending on the letters are going to be one of those times when you're going to have to finish off and restart multiple times, because depending on how the letter is worked in your pattern, it won't end up, the letter won't stop close to another letter. Like if you notice, if we keep going up this way and curving around and go work our way back, we're going to end up over here. That is a lot of space to just carry a thread over, so we're not going to do that. That wouldn't look good for anybody. We're just going to keep doing our thing, one stitch at a time. Two up. There we go. Get in there, baby. So, not sure about you folks, but today was a relatively relaxing day at work for me. Aside from the few people that were just overall crabby and decide they're going to be easily confused by mundane situations. Like I had a customer today. Those of you that don't know, I'm a delivery driver for an auto parts store. In my area, and we've got some competitors around. I mean, who doesn't, right? Everybody does. But unfortunately, some of our customers don't really realize that we don't all have like the same computer system as our rivals. So we had one person come in today that I don't think was from the neighborhood. I think they were out of state, which there's no problem with that. Be out of state. I mean, welcome to Florida. But he was looking for a part for his vehicle, and we didn't have it in stock. None of our stores nearby had it in stock. It was for a very odd, obscure part for a very obscure vehicle and year. There's only so much we can do. We're not miracle workers. We try our best, but it doesn't always work. So it's like, oh, well, can you call this, isn't there a parts store next door to you? Like, well, yes, there's one down this, like, literally right next door. It's the next block. And there's another one a few blocks further down. We wish you luck finding your part. We're sorry we couldn't help you. Oh, well, and then the customer, I don't know if he didn't realize what he was about to ask us, but he asked it anyway. Can you call them for me and tell them that I'm on my way and that I need this part? And we looked at him for a second just to try and gauge if he was pulling our leg, which he wasn't. And we told him honestly, it's like, sir, we don't know their number. And our parts system, no, our parts aren't the same as their parts. I mean, the parts themselves are, yes, but the part numbers are different. We also can't call them because A, like I said previously, we don't have their number, and B, why would we try to give business or to another store? It was pretty much, it reminded me of the guests that would get upset at me and my compatriots at Disney World when we didn't have buses or monorails to take them to Universal Studios. Which, for those of my lovely watchers that worked at Disney or Universal or SeaWorld, pick your poison, you know that we don't take you from our resort to a different resort. That's not right. That's not how we do things. You're here. You're stuck with us until we have all of your monies. Of course, to be fair, the line for the new Hagrid ride probably starts at Disney World at this point because it's so long. But hey, I'm still looking forward to it when I'm able to get back there. So we've done all of our hash marks going one direction. We're now going to do make our little X's going the other way. Oh, I just realized I kind of went backwards the entire way. My lines went the other direction. But you know what? That is okay, because little X's look the same no matter what you do. At least, in my opinion, they look the same. Some people get rarely uncomfortable when they realize that they've done things in the opposite direction that they were supposed to, even if the final result looks the exact same. Me, not so much, because unless somebody looks at this with a magnifying glass, they're not going to notice that my floss goes in a different direction. So don't panic too much. Leave your towel at home. Don't freak out. It's going to be okay. Deep breath. In through the nose. Out through the mouth. Because it's just cross stitch, my dears. It is just constantly poking fabric. Many times. And getting an image. So there's no reason to freak out. It is totally okay. Speaking of Harry Potter and Hagrid's ride, kind of jumped on that bandwagon and started playing that new Wizards Unite thing, which, since I've been playing Pokemon Go since it pretty much came out, it kind of reminds me very strongly of that, which makes sense since they're both Niantic, tomato, Pokemon Expelliarmus. But either way, it's a nifty game so far. Definitely not something to do while driving. Heads up, my lovelies, don't do anything on your phone while driving, because that's how you toddle yourself right off the mortal coil. And I kind of prefer you here. Even on your worst days, I prefer you here. And there we have the letter T. You can see what I mean by everything being a little bit smaller. So if we use our handy dandy ruler, there we go. Oh, if I actually had inches. This one's about, it's going to be a little bit over an inch, since, like I said before, each of our bigger squares is an inch. It's going to be an inch and like a millimeter, as opposed to the letter T over here, which is a little over half an inch. So things translate a lot differently. So if you make a pattern all by yourself, which if you do, I'm very proud of you. Congratulations. Pattern making is not easy. If you're panicking, going, oh no, the pattern I made is absolutely humongous. I don't want to do anything with this now because I don't want to actually make the pattern into a cross stitch. I understand. I'm right there with you. This thing terrified me. I was not looking forward to starting that at all. Wow. So I lied, apparently. Cross-stitch needles can definitely stab you if you're not careful. Dang, that went deep, too. How did I manage that? I'm going to go grab a Band-Aid really quick so I did not bleed all over my Aida cloth, because that's not good for anybody. I'll be right back. Well, that just goes to show you that anything can stab you. So, politely, my dears, please be cautious. Just because your needle is relatively dull does not mean it is not still a needle. So heads up with that. Let's get this on my finger so we can keep going with our day. Ugh, I put that on like I am not paying attention. Just goes to show how long since I put a band-aid on anything. Dang. Well, you've tasted blood. Anyway, we're going to start up here, work our way down, do all this jazz. When it comes to letters, you get to kind of use kind of whatever, however you want to make it happen, the same way that you did with our mushrooms. Whatever's easier for you. If you want to start down here, up here, way up there, and work your way down, it's all you. Whatever you, my dear, are comfortable with, go for it. It's also a good idea, though, visually, make sure that you know where you are. So we're going to tweak this a little bit so I don't accidentally start crocheting a different word entirely. Because you'd be surprised at how many times I caught myself when I was making the pattern originally, how frequently I messed up because I suddenly started doing an entirely different word in this inking process. I felt completely moronic. Okay. So we're starting right about there. Make sure our tail doesn't go anywhere stupid. It's also a good idea to make sure that your edges, you know, they, like I said, they hang off a little bit, but you also don't want them so long that you stitch your work to your work, which sounds dumb, but I've done that before. A lot of my don't do this, it's annoying stories come from experience, because I've done it, and it was dumb. But I learned from it, so I guess there's a positive spin on that. Like yesterday, don't put your lip on a burning stove. Okay. Yep. Okay, we're still good. Let's make sure our thread isn't too screwy there. So if any of you lovelies decided what kind of things you want to see made, or any ideas of what things you want to learn how to make, because if not, our next stream is going to be, our next few streams are going to be a mixture of working on this in chunks and working on crochet project, because I need to make a little baby beanie and a baby beanie and diaper cover themed with my husband's favorite starter water starter, or one of his favorites, a mudkip. Since our little youngling is going to be joining us very, very soon, actually. We have 7 weeks left, she says tentatively, because math is weird. I believe we have 7 weeks left. 33 weeks today? Yeah, 7 weeks. Whew, that's coming a lot faster than I thought it was. But I think anybody who ends up pregnant can tell you that. From the stick turning positive to them putting that little one on your chest is just rather quick. Always that's how it feels once you get close to the end of your journey. Once you're still on it, which I'm currently obviously still on, it seems like it's taking forever and a day. When actually it's just 33 weeks. So speaking of that, if any of my viewers are expecting, congratulations on immediately for that, because props, you're procreating. But there are some handy dandy apps out there that tell you what your baby is doing in utero, how big they are, what their body is doing, what your body is doing. It even has a nifty little section. Some have nifty sections on what your partner should be doing, or how they can be more part of the process. Because I know that the person that is pregnant, kind of all the attention goes on them, and they're the center of the universe, because let's face it, they are growing a person and there's lots of tiny parts. But your partner is also important. They're there to, well, they're supposed to help you out, be supportive, go out at 2 o'clock in the morning and get you those chicken wings if that's what your womb mate is craving. I'm allowed to make bad mom/dad jokes. I have the card for it. But I think it's nifty. The one that I use is provided by, I believe it's called The Bump. And it like tells you your baby is the size of this, or your baby is the size of that. Like, you can actually choose if you want to see what they look like compared to like a food, or a candy, or an animal. I think the last time I looked, my little my little collaboration, if you want to call him that, was the size of a chocolate cake, which, as a person who really enjoys chocolate cake, that was mildly terrifying, because cakes are delightful and they come in many, many different sizes. So unfortunately, because I'm a weirdo, my first thought was, holy crap, that's a lot of cake, because my first image went to like one of those giant sheet cakes you get from Publix for a birthday party, and it didn't even take into consideration that it probably meant one of the small rounder ones that you can buy in the bakery, not a sheet cake, because that would be a bit, that's a lot of baby. That is a lot of baby. I think that young woman in Australia, that he was about the size of a sheet cake. He was 14 pounds, 13 and a half, 14 and a half pounds. And that wondrous person delivered him without an epidural, without any drugs, just, he is mulched baby. Already the size of a toddler, straight out of the gate. I'm hoping our little guy is a bit smaller. He's currently already 4.5 pounds, but he's measuring in at the same size as a 36 to 38 week old baby, which is a bit intimidating, because his big sister was not that large. Let's see, I'm trying to debate if this is enough tail to keep going. Give it a shot. Worst case scenario, we just have to restart it again. Now we're going to start with letter A. We have our T and our H. I think once I get past the, the word that we should be, okay-ish. I think at that point you would have a good enough idea about how to go about doing your lettering. unless you, let's see, I can always make a poll later and see how much of this project you all want to see done step by step. Because if that's something you'd like to do, cool, spiffy, let's do a thing. If not, it's also okay. Well, we're gonna do a thing that my mother-in-law told me to not do with my cross-stitching because it makes the back messy. But like I said, I have plans for the back. It'll be fine. So I knotted it. Let's see if knotting our thread holds it in place if we don't tug on it too hard. Yep. Awesome. Cool. That works. Let's go with that. So for the letter A, we need to go down 4 spaces. 1, 2, 3, 4. I need to go across 1. Don't lose that other tail because that's the one that's going to be a pain. Because you want to keep enough of a tail so that you have the ability to move around and finish off your thread. It's just like if you were to be hand stitching something like clothing or something of the like. You want to have enough thread that your needle can move freely. Because nothing is more aggravating than trying to finish off a piece of thread so it doesn't unravel like a crazy person. And you can't because you don't have enough to like turn around and knot what you're currently working on. Super frustrating. KO. There you are. Thought you could hide from me, did ya? Not sure where that accent came from. Thank you, Captain Kyle Games. Tried my best on that banner. Of course, now I have to remind myself what my banner is. Knowing me, it's probably yarn balls. Okay, you get. There we go. Since that knotting trick worked so well, we're going to do that again. Telling my mother-in-law. I'm not sure she'd be a fan of it. Probably wouldn't be good to tell my husband either, since he was trained by my mother-in-law. Okay, let's rejoin and keep going around the rest of our letter A. But, I mean, if you do tell them and they figure it out, whoops. Because what have we said, my dears? If it looks pretty on the front, and your stitches aren't falling out and going willy-nilly, then does it really matter what the back looks like? I mean, yes, it'd be pretty aesthetically pleasing if everything was neat, tidy, and all that jazz. I am honestly not too worried about it, as long as the front looks nice. And I have the same mentality when it comes to my crochet pieces. As long as the front of my crochet looks like it's supposed to, the inside is a knotted mess. Because a lot of folks, they teach you to, when you're changing colors or finishing off a row, to weave in your ends. And that is fine and dandy. I do weave in my ends, but I am also very paranoid when it comes to the ends of my yarn, of where they're going to go, what they're going to do over time. Like, I have this horrible fear of someone messaging me up and going, hey, I just bought an XYZ from you and I washed it once and it fell apart in the washing machine. Which is positively horrible because that's a lot of material all over the place and so much fluff. So much fluff. On the flip side, though, you're not really supposed to put handmade pieces into the dryer. That's not the smartest thing for you to do. Why is that, you ask? Because exactly what I just said is an example. It's going to explode. It's also going to shrink depending on what it is. Alright, you little booger. How did I manage that? Oh well. Can't get that knot out, so we're just going to have to tug it along with us. Which, depending on the size of your knot, will fit. Which is fine. That came out a little adult. So that popping sound you're hearing now, that is that knot being tugged through my Aida cloth. And you might be asking, but I thought you said that kind of stuff will warp your Aida cloth. Sometimes it can. This knot is just slightly, insignificantly bigger than the holes in my Aida cloth. So I'm not too worried about it. Now, if I was working on 18 count or 24 count, and for those of you that have just joined us or have forgotten our math from earlier, the 14, 18, 24 count stuff, that's telling you how many of those itty bitty holes are in an inch. So if you work anything smaller than a 14 count, which I do on the occasion, that would be something that would you'd be messing up your Aida cloth because those holes are stupid small. Okay, what are you doing? There we go. But my suggestion, if you were to work with a smaller Aida cloth, other than congrats, it's time consuming, and I personally need to put on my old lady glasses when I do that because I can't see it all. After a while, I start to get all fuzzy. Oh look, our knot magically unknotted itself. Check that out. Cool. I love when that happens. Oh, what was I saying? Words were happening. Crap. I'm saying words. They're coming out of my mouth in a relatively good stream of concentration, and I've completely derailed. As now 2 burning trains on the side of the road. Crap. Wow, that's really bad. I completely forgot what I was talking about. Ugh. So we finished letter A. Flip that puppy over. Finish her off. Trying to mentally go back through what we were just talking about. Oh, Aida cloth. And holes and things that I've worked on before. My suggestion, at least what I do personally when I work with a smaller Aida cloth, is sometimes those holes are even too small for my cross-stitch needle. And when that happens, I carefully, very carefully, use just an actual sewing needle. And I only use one thread, one strand of floss. So it's very, like if you see here, this is 18 count Aida cloth. This puppy has 4 more of these little holes than this guy does. But like from where you're at, it looks pretty decent. But each X is one strand of floss. This is 2 strands of floss. So it's kind of like cross-stitching in bold, whereas this is kind of like cross-stitching in italics. Which, you want to cross-stitch in italics and you want to do all the cross-stitching projects like cursive, more power to you, because that would drive me absolutely batty. So we're going to start on our itty bitty baby tee. I'm sorry, itty bitty baby tee. Let's try and make sure we enunciate, because that's good for people to hear. We're going to go down. So we have 3 spaces going this way. And again, if you're looking at my hands going, hey, you're doing left to right and you're doing bottom left to upper right and upper right to bottom left. Yes, I am. Because sometimes it's just how my hands work. It makes the... But also, how I've mentioned previously, it is your craft. You are doing the exact same stitch, just in a different fashion. I would say it's similar to that comic with the 2 people looking at the letter 6 or the letter 9 on the ground, and from where they're standing, it looks like the letter 6. Wow, the letter 6 or the letter 9. And the caption, oh, we went over too many. See, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. Whoops, that happens. Easy peasy. Unthread yourself. Pull it back out. Bip. See? Narrow down to 2. Everybody makes mistakes. This is why we follow our pattern. But to be fair, if I hadn't mentioned that and had kept going, there's a very good chance that nobody would have noticed. Unless I did not repeat that same mistake with a letter T somewhere else in the pattern, and then I would have noticed and driven myself crazy, because that's a long way to go back. That's that OCD coming out. So, we have fixed ourselves, double checking. 1, 2, 1, 2, cool. I think my issue arose from my pattern here. It looks a little bigger than just 2 across, and that might have been why I made 3, or just because I'm talking out loud to y'all lovely folks. I wasn't fully paying attention, because honestly, after a while, your hands just kind of do their own thing. Once you have a pattern you're following and you're used to their stitches, and you have a really good flow going, you can just zone out and let your hands do all the driving. Your head doesn't really have to be there. I mean, it's nice if it visits, but it's not necessary. That's frustrating. That is a knot that I can't get out. Well, let's do this then. Snip. Now we've got a tail, which is fine. Let's work that tail. Let's hold it just the right way. So as we go across, we will grab that tail and keep going. And that way, after we have stitched it up a few times, we will cut off the excess. What is that Bear Grylls thing? Learn, overcome, adapt. See? No panicking, my loves. Panicking just makes you accidentally stab yourself in the thumb with a dull needle. I still don't know how I did that. That was a magic trick that I really should work on never happening again. Let's cut off our excess so we don't snag it anywhere else, and keep going with the letter T. So we finished going up here. Now we need to 1, 2, 3, 4. Make that itty bitty little cross segment there. let's see, there's that. And I'm not 100% sure if they're clickable or not, but on the left side of the screen, I've tried putting up my Etsy page and also my Critter Stitchin Facebook page. I was going to put in like all of the pages that I have because I'm Critter Stitchin on Instagram, Twitter, Tumblr, Facebook, and Etsy. So it's relatively easy to find me. It's this Critter Stitchin, and it's the same icon on all of them. So if you find one that says Critter Stitchin or something similar, but you don't have that little blue and silver yarn ball icon, those aren't me. But I tried linking them so you can see them and possibly click on them. Because over at my Etsy store, I have various things from dice bags to Scrump dolls, Jack Skellington hats. I have Pride bunnies, in case you and yours want to go celebrate Pride with a bunny or a bear with your flag colors. I personally keep my little Bye Pride flag bunny in stock because that's the flag that yours truly flies. But I also do commission work there, and if you have any commission questions or things you want to see me make, you can message me on pretty much anything that I've listed. Again, Facebook, Twitter, Tumblr, Instagram, here on Twitch. This is something you want to do. And depending on what you want made, you might actually get to see it made on the stream. Like the young lady I'm working this for, she's currently at work, so she unfortunately can't watch me do this right now, but maybe she will later. So she might actually enjoy watching this happening. So that is T-H-A-T. T-H-A-T. The words that. So that is something that we have done. You have now done your first letters and word all by yourself. I am proud of you. Congratulations. And hopefully, you didn't stab yourself like I did. This girl right here did that. Hopefully you didn't. I feel like I figured out how I managed that. That was painful. But tune in next time. My goal between now and the next time I stream is to get the rest of the text done, and then we can work together on mushrooms. Because you'll see here that there's black line work around our mushrooms. Fungus. Since everything we seem to be doing so far involves mushrooms, it's kind of funny, actually. Where did my shroom go? As opposed to the guys who are working on the last few times we joined up, these guys have a black outline. A complete black outline. Even the pattern that I had made up has a black outline for them. But these guys have a black line. In certain pieces, a black outline is what you use, and it's pretty much line work for a drawing. But instead of doing the line work first, you do all the color first and then come back afterwards and put in your lines. So we'll learn a new thing when we get to the fungus. So between now and then, I'll work on the letters, you work on your letters, and we will go from there, my dears. So y'all have a magical day. Enjoy your Friday. Enjoy your weekends. For those of you that don't work weekends, congratulations. You're one of the lucky ones. For those of you that still work weekends, especially at those aforementioned theme parks, like I used to do, may the odds be ever in your favor. I wish you luck. Please stay hydrated because it's as hot as blazes. We'll see you later.